Hello and welcome to another episode of the Laid Back Life podcast, where we talk about how to love life, entrepreneurship, and improve daily. I'm your host, Jordan Ostroff, and joining me today is sort of myself, but this is our Ask Me Anything episode. So these are questions from you and other Atticus members and some other questions that we have collected for me to answer. So while it will be a only me episode, we'll be getting right to the heart of a lot of things that you and people just like you are curious about. So I hope you enjoy this episode. And in the words of Rod Serling for the Tower of Terror ride, today's episode requires a different sort of introduction, right? Normally, I have some of the most amazing lawyers and business owners and vendors on here to talk about life, to talk about how they enjoy life, to talk about actionable tips and tricks. This one's different because what we have today is, on the one hand, just me, but on the other hand, it's an AMA. So rather than have the questions live, my team put together some questions that we've been asked, and I'm going to answer them. So really, while I'm giving you answers, this was made possible by all of the questions that came together. So I hope you'll enjoy this episode as much as you enjoyed last week's episode. With that being said, let's dive right in to the questions. I have not seen these questions before that I know of, so let's see what happens. Question number 1. What's one lesson fatherhood has taught you that you now use in your business? I love this question because I want to be very clear. I think I actually wrote a newsletter sort of about this. I try to treat my employees the same way I treat my child. Not that I treat them like children, but fatherhood put me in this really interesting place where I both want the best for my son, but also want to give him as much support as possible. And so, like even from those first steps, right? Like we want the kid to take the first steps, but we don't want them to fall too hard. That mindset, applying that to business has been awesome because like I am very demanding of my employees. I want the best from them and I want the best for them, but also like being a father has made me more supportive of that fact. It's like I've always had the demanding aspect of it, but I never had the grace to really push them through the issues until fatherhood, somewhere around that time, right? So it's wild to me. Like I will find myself treating my staff like my child. And again, I'm not treating them like children. I'm not babying them. That's not what I mean. But having that true, genuine care and concern and interest in them while also pushing them to be better. To be very clear, I don't mean that from the standpoint of like, I know what's better. I don't. But getting them in the perspective where they are constantly trying to take the next step, trying to take the next evolution, trying to get the next level for them while actually being supported. Like that's the part I had to add in from fatherhood, right? Like I had to realize all the things that I have to do or my wife and provide for and support my child to allow him to learn to read, to be a way better Minecraft player than I will ever be, to, watching him hit a baseball over the amount of times that, me or my dad were pitching for him in the backyard and just like seeing that evolve was awesome. That's the biggest lesson, is like making sure you have the support to help your employees grow the same way that you are ideally trying to do that for your child. If Tony Stark had a law firm, he'd automate all of it and spend a ton of time at happy hours and Topgolf. It amazes me how often when I'm working with firm owners one-on-one, we create a firm that is supported by them doing less, a life that helps them do more, and then tie those things together in a way where they have the success they've always dreamed of. If you're ready to delegate like Batman and lead like Captain America, click the link below and let's talk to see how we can work together to help you achieve the law firm you've always dreamed of. All right, question number 2. Your wife is more risk averse and you're more risk tolerant. How do you two balance big life or business how do you two balance big life or business decisions? We just do what my wife wants. No, I'm kidding. This is another interesting question. So like we moved to San Antonio. My wife is teaching law school, St. Mary's. So this is a recent conversation that we had in terms of us, uprooting and moving halfway across the country. it's interesting. Her move, like she was the more risky move. Like I did not have a reason to leave Orlando. Normally it's the opposite, right? So there are times where I have forced my wife out of her comfort zone. She will tell you that in terms of us taking the 13-month cross-country road trip, I told her I was going with our son and she can come with us or not. I don't recall it happening exactly that way, but there's a beautiful balance between the risk averse and the risk tolerantness of it. Most of the time, I'm pushing her to be uncomfortable and she's pulling me back to be realistic. And it's a really good balance. There was this thing that made its rounds in the marketing channels where there was a question asked of people during their interview. If you were given an elephant, what would you do with it? You can't kill it, but like, how would you use an elephant to help market this company? And so we did this back when I owned the marketing company for law firm owners. I loved our answers, right? Like we were going to get, the banner strapped on the elephant's sides with a saddle on top. We were going to walk the elephant down Main Street of towns. We were going to let kids ride the elephant around, go into these community events, with a law firm's logo on it. Like it got to the point where literally I was like, wife, I want to buy an elephant. I'm ready. I have the plan. We're good to go. And obviously that's stupid. Please don't do that. So my wife was able to reel me in, right? So it is amazing to me how often she will be the voice of reason. And every now and then she will let me be the voice of, I'm going to call it fun. She might call it crazy, risky stuff, right? So I think like without me, I don't think my wife ever would have gone through being a law firm owner. Without her, I would have gone bankrupt multiple times over. It's an amazing balance. And ultimately, we come to some form of compromise, and not necessarily from the standpoint of like true compromise where neither of us are happy. I think I do a good job putting more ideas on the table. She does a good job being more realistic about them. And then like we will come to a situation where we will come up with the right answer as the compromise because it's the right answer because of our different perspectives, not with everybody being a little bit unhappy. So great question. Question 3. If Benji could describe what you do for a living in one sentence, what do you think he'd say? Okay. So true story. I guess all my stories are true. My child for a while actually thought that I played golf for a living. Not that I am a good golfer by any means, just for the amount of time that I spent networking at Topgolf and I was taking golf lessons and everything else. Like he genuinely thought that was my job. And honestly, he's not wrong because a lot of my job is to generate business. And so, being slightly better at golf and going to the round robin tournaments, the scrambles, and going to Topgolf with people, it was a huge part of my job. So he's not wrong. It was just hysterical that that was how he framed it because I am terrible at golf. I'm not a good golfer. I am not out to golf. I'm out to build relationships outside and have fun. So he did used to describe it that way, definitively, 100%. If he had to describe what I do for a living now, I think he would say that I sit at a computer and help people with their problems. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask him this question and then we'll run his answer either in this podcast later or I'll run it somewhere else as reference to his actual answer. All right, question 4. You've said you'd like to be launched out of a cannon at your funeral. Why that choice? I don't know. Just to be sort of funny. I think we go. Here's the thing for me, right? Time and tide. Wait for no man, everything's uncertain except death and taxes, like all that stuff. I genuinely struggle with the concept of one day I will be dead. That's probably a sort of natural belief. I don't think most people have gotten over that. But I think that's the point to true happiness. This is not a video game. There is not a restart button. We get one path through this life. And I don't want to take away from the religious element of living this life for the purpose of a better next life. If that's your belief, that's totally fine. I don't believe in an afterlife in the same way. I still want to be a good person because it makes me feel good, because I think it's the right thing to do, because I think if everybody was nicer, it would make the world a better place. But like, I kind of want to have some fun with the concept of death and the fact that I will be forgotten very quickly. I've got one kid. I don't have a litany of family who will carry my memory for some period of time. So getting launched out of a cannon at the Castillo de San Marcos in St. Augustine was my dream funeral, because I think it would be fun. I think it would be interesting for people. I think it'd be different from everything else. I'd love to have it catered with all my favorite restaurants and have people tell, funny stories and impactful stories of how it helped their life. That would make me very happy. And even if it wouldn't, like, I'll be dead. That being said, the reason it's specifically this, I took my wife to St. Augustine for our first like couples weekend type thing. And at that point, they actually you could take specific cannoneer classes. You could get certified to be one of the people who fires the cannon. There's no ball, but shooting the cannon. They do it a couple times a day. Cannot find it. I don't know if that thing didn't exist post-COVID. They did away with it. There was some injury. I have no idea. So like, it was actually this whole thing. Like, I wanted to go take cannoneering classes. This is the first, date weekend that I took my wife on. So it's sort of those things, but also it's the concept of just like having a bit more fun once I'm no longer here. One last positive memory for everybody of me. Great question. These are great. Question number 5. What does being a lawyer with a life really mean to you day to day? So, man, I think I'm answering all these questions with a story. So this one actually is unfortunately multiple stories. So I graduated law school in 2012, worked at the prosecutor's office until 2015, and then was really a criminal defense lawyer until like 2019, right? So in those 7 years or so, I can tell you 2 people who retired, both of them in that time frame in the criminal defense area of Central Florida retired because their wives, companies got bought out, or they got some sort of great severance package for their retirement. Like, neither of them was it because of their lawyer work as a criminal defense attorney. It was in both instances, their wives, either the company being bought out, some merger, something along those lines. That being said, I can tell you a lot more than 2 who are no longer here because either they had a heart attack or stroke, or died by suicide, or abandoned their practice and fled the practice of law. And I think that is awful. Right? But like, it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. I hope it doesn't have to be that way. I want to live my life and run my practice in a way where it does not have to be that way. So being a lawyer with a life means to me on the day-to-day is leading by example. How you can run a business, run a law firm, run whatever company or multiple companies for some people in a way where if nothing else changed, you could sit down on your deathbed and be genuinely happy with what happened. I don't like this mentality of I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I make partner. I'll be happy when the firm has 1 million people. I'll be happy when whatever, because you're not. It's not going to be the case. You're going to find, I'll be happy when we're $1 million firm. No, actually, I'll be happy when we're a 1.2 firm. I'll be happy when I make partner. No, I'll be happy when I make senior partner. I'll be happy when I'm in charge of a department. Like, you can put all this stuff off, but time waits for no man. So being a lawyer with a life is about enjoying the journey of life. It's about running a business, running a practice, running a firm in a way that you are actually happy and will be happy and can retire, right? Like, it's also not the work until you drop from a financial standpoint, right? Like, that's what it means to me on a day-to-day. I want to lead by example. And then I want to share my lessons. Right? There are a lot of people that took a lot of time and effort into helping me be successful and get to where I am. And I want to give back as much as I can. Sometimes it's free. Sometimes it's paid. Sometimes it's social media content. Sometimes it's one-on-one coaching. Like, I love it. I want to be able to do that from I walk the walk. So you will see me, playing golf with people, going to Top Golf, having lunches multiple times, a week, going to BNI and other fun networking events, and also, doing my job and hanging out with my kid and going to SeaWorld and, fun things on the weekends. Like, I want to lead by example because I know that more people can be doing this. They just don't think they can or are putting it off for some reason. And I don't want that to be the case because it's not guaranteed, right? So that's what being a load of the life means to me on the day to day. All right. Those were our personal and family questions. Those were our top 5, I guess. Now we're moving on to question 6. Which superhero do you actually run your business like and why? Ooh, which superhero do you actually run your business like and why? If you ask me this question slightly differently, I would probably say Iron Man because, I think that would be super cool. Realistically, Spider-Man. Not that I don't know how poor Peter Parker is, but technically, Peter Parker's paid job is his superhero job, right? Like, he takes pictures of himself for the purpose of having money. And I guess probably Clark Kent does. Well, he's not really, he guess he has some source of Superman. So maybe Clark Kent, but I'm not a huge Superman fan. I'm going to go with Spider-Man here. So for me, I am living my life super fun. I'm not Spider-Man. I'm not swinging from the tallest trees, but I have a really cool life and I enjoy it. And then I market that life helping other people get the same thing. So the same way Spider-Man is saving all these people and then getting paid to take pictures of it, I am living a great life, running some great businesses, having a ton of fun in the process, while getting paid by other people to help them create their version of that journey. So this ended up being a really interesting response. And I'm glad that question was in here because I would not have thought about that except being asked. All right, question 7. What's the most Jordan Hawaiian shirt you own and does it have its own story? So that you have branded really well if 1, somebody asks you about the shirts. But then 2, if somebody realizes that I don't wear just Hawaiian shirts, there's a specific Jordan look. It's normally red, white, and blue because those are my law firm colors. Those are my brand colors. This one is not. If I was really serious about it, or knew these questions beforehand, I would pull it. But I will tell you the most Jordan shirt, for Father's Day, my sister bought my dad and I not matching shirts, different look, similar concept, where they had a picture of my son on them. So I have a mostly black with some pops of color shirt that has my son's face on it from when he was 3 or 4. He no longer looks like that, and I am way skinnier, so that shirt no longer remotely fits. But that is my most Jordan Hawaiian shirt, and it does have a story behind it because it is the picture of my kid. And the hilarious follow-up to this story is I would wear the shirt, especially to conferences and stuff. And I would get a ton of people asking, is that your child? And for half of them, I would say, yes, of course. For the other half, I would just say, no. It's just a random kid. And see what they did. So I don't know why you would wear a Hawaiian shirt with some random child's face on it. But there are some people walking around that think that now because of me. So that's my most Jordan shirt. All right, 8. What is your all-time favorite horror movie and what business lesson could we pull out of it? Wow. Okay, so let me make sure I get this correct. I'm going to call it my favorite horror movie. I haven't seen it in a while. I should rewatch it. But my certainly most underrated horror movie is this movie called The Banshee Chapter from 2013. The only person in it that is remotely familiar to me is Ted Levine. He plays Leland Stottlemyre on Monk, and he was also Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs. So I don't want to share the story a ton, but the entire concept of it is rooted in real things. So there's a part about the CIA and Project Wormwood. There's parts of it that are about these random signals that get, certain frequencies will pick up random sounds, random parts of the country. There's this whole multiple people on LSD have had the same similar trips, similar hallucinations, despite having like nothing in common. And so there's like an underpinning of like, can this drug access a different actual reality? So all of it's rooted in real life. And because of that, it scares the heck out of me. Like I cannot stand any horror movie that takes place in the future or in space or any, like it's not scary to me. Like I'm not walking out here onto the bridge of the Nostromo from Aliens. So like none of the alien movies are scary to me. There might be a couple of jump scares. They don't sit with me. Banshee Chapter sits with me. And honestly, Signs by M. Night Shyamalan also sits with me. Like the super grounded alien invasion sits with me so much. So those would be my, not that Signs is my all-time favorite horror movie, but like I love the concept of that really grounded in reality horror movie. So this one being based on actual like recorded things that have happened. And then, Signs, like there's a ton of alien sightings, and then like really grounding it in a very, a random in the middle of nowhere. Those would probably be like Banshee Chapter is much more my favorite than Signs, but that concept. So the business lessons that we can pull out of it is I like stories that are based upon reality. Probably you should too. So marketing based upon stories, marketing based on reality, not being a fraud. Like it amazes me how you'll get these people that will get popular on social media and then they'll be torn down because you'll find out it's all fake, as opposed to like there's 8 billion people in the world. I can be me loudly. I genuinely love wearing Hawaiian shirts. I genuinely love hanging out with other people. I genuinely love what I do 95% of the time. Even if it's a really hard run, I at least enjoy it afterwards. Be you loudly. Tell stories about your life. People will hang their hat on it. They will connect with you. They will want to see more of you. They will connect with you. So that would be my all-time favorite horror movie, The Banshee Chapter, and the business lesson would be grounding things in reality. Man, what an interesting question. All right, so that takes us to question 9. If you could build your own Justice League of business partners, which real-life people would make the team, and what superhero roles would they play? To build my ultimate. Okay, so Robert Greene would be one of them. Robert Greene wrote Laws of Power, Daily Laws, Mastery, all of that. I think I need real life people. He's a real life person. I think he has done the best job tapping into prior history from the standpoint of modern applicability. Like if you read the book Mastery, it has some amazing stories from Leonardo da Vinci to Manny Pacquiao's trainer, and how everybody took like multiple different industries and combined them together. And Da Vinci was the first person to like cut up cadavers to make the art look better, and layering paint from the way that they layered buildings, whatever it was. Super cool. Robert Greene would be on it. What role would he play? Robert Greene's role would be like the Brainiac Cerebro role, having enough rundown of history and whatnot from there. Gary Vee would make the team. I love everything Gary Vee says, except for working 16 hours, the hustle porn culture. I love the concept of leading with kindness, empathy, and caring. And he's got a book, 12 and a half, where he talks about, the 12 emotions that helped him, and the half is the one that he is still working on. I think that's so cool. He would play the role of my mindset coach, double check person, sidekick type thing, to make sure that like I am showing up that way. Alex Hormozy, I think, is freaking brilliant in so many levels and gives a ton of it away for free and has a great amount of information. He would play the role of leading me to my next step, probably along those lines. And real life people for business partners. Okay, so Elon Musk, I think, would be on my Justice League. He's probably like the anti-hero, like the Lex Luthor in the situations where he teams up with Superman to help him. Maybe he's not that. Maybe that's offensive to one of them. I think he's It's wild to me what he has accomplished, and I do not agree on a lot of the things that he's done, but there's things that he has done that I love. And so he'd play the role of that sometimes villain, sometimes foil. Like if you remember like the 1990, or it's X-Men 97, the 90s X-Men show, and then the reboot, like the Wolverine Cyclops dynamic where like they're sort of buds, but they have some friction points. I think that would be the role that Elon Musk would play from their own real life people. Tony Hsieh from Zappos would have been on the list. Unfortunately, he's passed away. I loved Delivering Happiness. I think it was such a fantastic book when it came to like how he ran Zappos for a fun culture first and great customer service first. I don't know. That's a tough question. Justice League business partners, real life people. Tough question, man. I like props to wherever that came from. All right. Question 10. Back to the Future or Star Wars, which one is the better business manual and why? Ooh, these questions are hit home. So I would rather live in Star Wars land. If I had to live in a fictitious universe, Star Wars is the one. It's not perfect by any means, but to me it seems the most like lived in capitalist thing. Obviously you have like the fascist empire, but you've got this rebel alliance fighting them. This is 2025. I feel like we live in a about to be fascist empire, but there's a rebel alliance going through on it on a lot of things. So I'd like to, if I had to live in a fictitious universe, the Star Wars universe would be the one. That being said, from a business manual standpoint, probably Back to the Future, because let's be honest, we're all not going to have access to the Force. We're not going to have access to a group of dissidents leading our way in the future against the evil empire. But if we had a time machine, the DeLorean exists. If we had enough technology to be able to go back in time and redo things, I think we could run a better business from that standpoint. We could take all of our tests and all of our trials and then hop ourselves right back in time and do a different marketing strategy in there. So I'm going to go with Back to the Future over Star Wars. All right, that wraps up our pop culture and personality section. Now on to question 11. What was the exact moment you realized you couldn't keep being just a lawyer and you had to be the CEO? Oh, I'm going to answer all these questions with the story, almost all of them. This one, I hope you know if you followed me. So my son was born on March 2nd of 2018. So somewhere in the middle of 2017, my wife let me know she was pregnant. She put it on a hot sauce bottle. I love hot sauce. So it said like, you're the hot daddy or, something like that. It was so cool to the way that she did it. And I was super happy. We've been struggling to have a kid for a year, probably because our business was doing so terribly and we were so stressed out and overworked and I was way overweight and all of that stuff. And I was just like, look, we can't keep doing what we're doing. Someone's going to hand us a baby. Like I'm so super happy. How the heck are we going to do this? I cut a huge marketing budget. I was like, look, if we go out of business, I'll at least be able to spend more time with my kid, but I'm not going to be killing myself 80, 90, 100 hours a week while also trying to be a father. There's no way that's going to work. That's what led to it. And so, my wife committed to being the lawyer managing partner of the firm. I committed to marketing CEO type stuff. And I have not looked back. That would have been 2017. I had a family law case I wrapped up, I think in 2019. I did one motion to suppress in 2020. We transitioned into personal injury through that whole process. Like, it's been great, but it all comes back to that like moment of elation about my son, followed by the moment of dread about how are we going to add a third person to the chaos that is our life. And now, we did a 13-month cross-country road trip. We moved cross-country to San Antonio. I get to see my kid every day, as he gets home. It's awesome. I highly suggest. Hopefully you don't need to hit rock bottom, but I highly suggest focusing on what life you actually want to have in the day-to-day and where that gets you, and then working backwards to figure out how to make that be something you can do. All right, question 12. How do you define success now versus how you defined it when you started your firm? I'll be really honest with you. I did not define success in any way, shape, or form when I first started my firm. I had no clue. There's a great story about Kurt Vonnegut and Joseph Heller at the event for some investment banker. And Kurt Vonnegut says to Joseph Heller, hey, how does it make you feel knowing that this guy makes more money in a day than you will make in your entire life, having written Catch-22 and other things? And Joseph Heller says, well, at least I know something he doesn't. Kurt Vonnegut perks up and says, and what's that? And Joseph Heller says, the definition of enough. That would be my definition of success, is figuring out what enough looks like and getting there in the most joyful way possible. And I want to be clear, enough is not just like your bills are covered. That's not enough. Enough is your bills are covered and your retirement is covered and you have enough extra income to have fun. So enough, you might be able to afford 4 clients a month, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what is enough. Enough might be 8 clients a month. It might be 10 clients enough. And that's not to say that you have to forever commit to that. But what I'm saying is for right now, you figure out what enough is, you work backwards from enough. And then when you hit enough, whatever your number is, you decide if that's still enough. I mean, I have raised my financial targets a number of times as I hit them and get closer to it. But that's how I define success, is having maybe having more than enough. That's probably technically a better way to frame this, having more than enough. So what does that look like for me? More than enough looks like me bringing in $250,000 or so a year, working 3 days a week, working 25-ish, 24-ish hours a day in those 3 days, and doing the work that I want to do. So not legal work. I love networking. I love reading business books. I love implementing them into my business. I love coaching both my internal team and externally on my clients. Like, that's what success looks like, is doing those things. That is more than enough for me, and that brings me happiness the overwhelming majority of the time. 13. What's the biggest myth about running a law firm that you personally destroyed in your own life? You are the best at it, is the myth that I have destroyed. That's it. No, I thought I had to do a lot, and then I realized I did not. It was a lot, everything, too much, right? I thought, I can't afford to hire this person. I have to take this on. No one's going to trust another lawyer the way they trust me, etc. And ultimately, not only did it get me nowhere, it also did not help my clients. Like, if I was burned out and aggravated and couldn't call them back in a timely manner, that's not helpful for them. If I was needing to be in 4 courthouses at the same time on the same day, it didn't help my clients. So the biggest myth that I destroyed was realizing I'm not the best at everything. And so the more that I can focus on the things that I'm best at and hire people that are they are the best at things that I am not at, the better we build a team, the better we build a business, the better we treat our clients. Myth busted. 14. When did you first feel like your systems, automation, lawmatics, etc., actually gave you freedom instead of just being more work? Ooh. Okay, so, I didn't. When somebody else pointed it out is when I noticed it. And what I mean by that is, so myself and my marketing director at the time, Mark Miller, spent 100 hours plus putting lawmatics in place. I had some of these systems in a bunch of different places. I had built Zapier to 17 other programs tied together. So we sat down and put it all in a lawmatics, walk through it, put the stuff in together. I could not have done it without him. It took me so much longer than it would now, not just because I know it, but because, thank you, lawmatics, you've added so many quality of life additions that would make it quicker regardless. But I didn't know, I didn't have a moment where I felt that it was working until all of my friends were like, hey, what's different about you? I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, you've seen miserable for the last 4 years. And now you seem happy. Like, what's going on? So when did I first feel like my systems were actually working? Was getting asked that question. People being like, you seem happy. You seem more fun again. Like, you seem like you have a life again. What happened? That's what let me know. So I wish I could tell you it was something internal. It wasn't. It was the external realization of the internal changes from making those differences. Great question. All right. Question 15. What's the number one trap law firm owners fall into that keeps them stuck in the weeds? C, question 13, thinking they have to do everything themselves. Great. That's the number one trap. I take it back. The number one trap I see law firm owners falling into is, it would be great if I was running $1 million law firm. Okay. Why? Well, what do you mean? Like, why $1 million law firm? What does $1 million law firm look like? Why is that important to you? It seems like a nice round number. Somebody else is doing it. I bought this book that tells me how to do it. I talked to this mentor who told me, you have to do it. Okay, great. That's the biggest trap, is falling into somebody else's definition of success, somebody else's law firm of their choice, something along those lines. That's the number one trap. So you get stuck in the weeds because it's not your story. It's not your journey. And I got to be, listen, I've told you 15 questions, 15 stories at this time, right? Like, I market my life, but I try to do it from a standpoint of, one, you're capable of it. And two, like, this is the question for me. This is how I came to this. Topgolf is my favorite networking place because I like it. My referral sources tend to like it. It rotates the conversation. Like, I wrote a whole newsletter about, I think there's 10 reasons for why Topgolf is my favorite place. And I'm not saying for it to be you. I'm saying you should sit down and think through those 10 reasons. And what's your place? You may not have the same place that checks all 10 of those boxes. But if there's a networking opportunity for you that checks 7 of those boxes, that's probably going to be your favorite. And you'll have reasons that that's better than Topgolf. So I really try to help people understand the background behind this, the methodology behind it. So that you can get out of the weeds. Because if you're just saying, I want to be the next Jordan Ostroff, one, congratulations. And if you do, okay, let's talk. We'll help you. But I want to know why. What is it about that? What, you have a commitment to the Hawaiian shirts? Do you want to only work 3 days a week? Is it because you too are now having a new child in your life that you want to make sure you're available for? Really give me the rundown of why. Of what makes the most sense for you. And then we can backdoor a strategy to get you to what you're looking for, instead of you coming to me with well, here's what somebody else thinks. All right. That wraps up our section on business and CEO mindset. So now 16, I'm running out of hands. You define networking as doing what you want to do with who you want to do it with. What's your best real life story of that paying off big? Ooh, all right. I'm going to do the lawyer thing. I'm not going to answer your question. I'm going to answer a different question. There's a guy, it will remain nameless. Who he is irrelevant. This guy sent me at least $10,000 worth of business. We had a lunch booked. It was set for Shin Sushi in Orlando. I love Shin Sushi. They have a dish, or at least the last time I was there, they had a dish that is it's either salmon or tuna salad. And they take an avocado and they slice it and they make it into a tower, and there's alfalfa sprouts or something in there, and there's a nice salad, great ginger dressing, and then they put the salmon or tuna or whatever you want around it. It's awesome. I dreaded going to this meeting. Dreaded it. Saw it on my calendar the day before, the morning of, and was like, oh my God, I have to go see so-and-so. All right, let's get ready. Let's do this. Let's do that. And so I showed up and I made the best of it. And I had sent this person business as well. I don't remember who set up the lunch. And then the check came. And this person just sat there and kind of stared at me and looked at the check and just waited.
yeah, it's awkward, right? Like if whatever that 3 seconds of pause were, like it was awkward. And I was like, all right, I'll pay. And I grabbed the check and paid it. And I was like, why am I doing this? Oh my God. What? Like I dreaded this meeting. It went okay. Obviously I was biased going in. And then like this ending at the end of him being like, I'm going to power move you into paying for the check. It's like, what am I doing? Why? What's the point of any of this? So that's my real life story of it paying off not big. Like it was financially big, but it was not helpful. It was not what I wanted. And so like that story stands out to me. Why? Because the minute I was like, I'm done with people I don't like 99% of the time, it started paying off better because my story is like every day I look at my calendar and I'm like, oh, I have a podcast with so-and-so. I get to talk to them. I have a lunch with them. I haven't seen them in a while. I have a meeting with these. Oh my God, I'm going to play pickleball with my best friends. Like it's wild to me. I don't have a story of it paying off big because it's every day. It's the day to day. It's walking the walk. It's enjoying the journey. It's looking at my calendar and being happy about almost everything on it versus this one lunch that was so, and it wasn't even that bad. Like the story I tell you of the end was bad. The rest of it was fine. It was, how's the weather and this and that, the other, but like the dread for this meeting going into it was so bad. So bad. Yeah. So that is my answering your question by answering the question I wanted you to ask, right? All right. So 17. Who has been the most surprising referral partner you've ever had? Who has been the most surprising referral partner you've ever had? All right. I'm going to answer this 2 different ways. So my wife connected with this guy who is a car broker. In essence, like he can figure out where to find the cheapest cars cross-referenced by the ability to ship them to you or get them to you, right? So if you're buying a new car, it makes sense to go somewhere close. If you're buying a used car and if it takes $500 to ship it down from the middle of nowhere, Iowa, and the car is $2,000 cheaper than at the lot next to your house, it might be worth it, right? So during COVID, there was, a huge shortage of everything. One of them being vehicles. Our ideal client for the law firm is a lot of soccer moms and dads, PTA parents. So like getting a van that holds enough of the kids with whatever other features was tough. So most surprising referral partner out would be the amount of people that were able to find a vehicle, like and have it shipped or driven down from New Jersey to Florida because it was available in the time frame to get my client, back out into their life was pretty crazy. Also, one of our paralegals refers a handful of family members every year. I think it's because she likes her job and talks about it to them. I really appreciate it. I was surprised. Like most of my employees generate some business. I was surprised by the amount of business that she has been sent. And then the other most surprising referral partner, not for me specifically, but a very good mentor of mine, has a couple colleagues who are cheap, let's say. And so in situations where it is ethically opportunistic for him to provide some sort of thank you gift or some sort of invite to an event, he will thank them with a gift card to a nice restaurant or invite them with him to a nice restaurant, something along those lines. Check your state's ethics to make sure it's passable in your state. Some states have weird rules. And so what has happened is a lot of times the spouses of those people have become his best referral sources because they like going to nice restaurants and their cheap spouse is not going to foot the bill. So having the gift card or having the invite has helped out. And so that's a super cool surprise. Again, not for me directly that I'm aware of, but I think that's a great story. So hit that question from those 3 different angles. All right. 18. If you could only golf, play pickleball, or go to Topgolf for business networking the rest of your life, which would I pick and why? Topgolf. Wrote a whole newsletter on this. So I'm not good at golfing, so Topgolf's a lot better. I enjoy pickleball more. I do. But Topgolf is better business networking than pickleball because it's shaded. If not air conditioned, there's at least fans. So being able to play at different times, you can have up to 6 people, whereas pickleball, you're usually playing with 4. And then also the commitment is different. People can pop in and pop out of pickleball. People can go and not hit. It's kind of weird to sit there and watch other people play pickleball. And also it rotates the conversation. So you'll have, let's say there's 6 people at a bay. One person's hitting, that leaves you with 5 people. So there's a 2 conversation and a 3 conversation. That person comes back. This person goes over here. Now there's a different 2 and 2 conversation. Like it keeps the conversation going super well. And I also think it's a lot easier for people to invite friends to Topgolf. Hey, we're going to go hit or don't hit. We'll have some lunch. We'll have some drinks, whatever. As opposed to pickleball, I get a lot of people like, well, but I've never played before. I don't want to be the odd man standing out. Like no one's ever said that about. So Topgolf is my number one. Drive Shack's fine. I think the Topgolf food's better. So anything along those lines, I tend to like. I like the a little bit physical activity-ness of it, but while still shaded with the fans, with decent food, with drinks. Drop in, drop out. We're in the same place. It's not like, oh, you showed up, we're on the 3rd hole, you got to come find us as we're hitting the 4th hole. Like Topgolf would be my one. All right, number 19. What's the biggest red flag you see in how lawyers try to network? Ooh. So one, they probably don't. Then they network in the wrong places. I stopped going to the events at the Orange County Bar Association because it's the same people over and over again. And none of them were sending me business, and none of them, either they did PI or they were closer to somebody else who did PI, or the firm did PI. So like they weren't positioned to send me business. Like if you do PI or you're at a PI firm, like don't send the case to me. It's okay. I will not be offended. So not networking at all. And then when they do, networking at the wrong places. So like I think you want to find a place that has a handful of lawyers, not too many lawyers, not all lawyers. So balancing those things. And then what you do at the networking events becomes the next biggest issue. A lot of people will just talk about work, which is not great. I don't know. Maybe there are some people that want to hear it. I don't want to go to a networking event after a whole day of work and then hear how like you filed this great motion on the blah, blah, blah matter with the argue. Like, okay, cool. Thank you. I want to talk about life, hobbies, interests, family. What are you doing this weekend? Right. So that would be the next thing. Like, so being boring at networking. So not networking in the wrong places, being boring. And then 4th, the final biggest red flag that I would say is not following up. I don't think you're going to get a case for meeting somebody once. I don't think it's going to happen. Exchanging business cards does not lead to cases. Exchanging business cards leads to follow-up emails and follow-up calls and follow-up meetings and hanging out and building a relationship, which leads to cases. So I'm not like, actually, I don't know if I have business cards currently, but I'm not against business cards in theory. I'm against that being your whole strategy. So those would be my 4 red flags in order for when it comes to lawyers networking. All right, question 20. How do you separate real friends from just business connections? So my ideal answer is you do not. It would be great if all of your business connections were also real friends. It's probably harder to have all your real friends become business connections than it is to have all your business connections become real friends. So I have real friends who are not business connections, mostly from the friend side, more so from the friend side than from the business side. Because when you are doing it right, what do we learn? People refer to people they know, like, and trust. So who do I know? Who do I like? And who do I trust? I should like people that I want to be friendly with. I should trust people that I want to have business connections with, but you need all those things to get the most amount of referrals. So how do you separate real friends from just business connections? You don't. As much as you can, not separate them. To the extent that you do, that's totally fine. You can have business connections who are not friends. You can have friends who are not business connections. That's okay. You just have to figure out, like, what's the point of this? So I will pick up the tab for business connections more than just for real friends, for no reason other than sometimes it's awkward, right? Like if you're going out with friends and always picking up the bill, it's probably just as awkward for them as it is for you. So either we'll rotate back and forth or we'll split it every time, whatever, as opposed to the business stuff. Like if you are my referral source, I'm picking up the check every time. If I am your referral source, you can pick up the check. If we are each other's referral sources, we can go back and forth, whatever. I don't want to keep score, to be honest with you. I want to spend as much time as possible with people in my life that I don't need to keep score with, but I will like not pay the check for just friends every time. Now, it's their anniversary, it's their birthday. I set this up, I pushed for it. Great, I'm going to do it. No problem with that. It's really just a question of I don't want it to be awkward for them or me in those situations. So that would be my biggest separation. It's just kind of knowing what to expect. I am financially investing in my business connections more than in my real friends from that perspective. But again, I believe they're the same people anyway. And let's be fair, let's be ethical. It is not they sent me business, so I'm buying that lunch by any means. It is having an ongoing series of connections in place and touch points, whatever you want to call them, with referral sources for the sake of getting more referrals. Voila. You're watching this on a Tuesday, comes out on Tuesday. This Friday, our newsletter is on getting more referrals through lifestyle design. So genuinely talking about how you living a better life, having more fun in life will help you get more referrals. Super cool chat, super cool newsletter, and I hope you will check it out this Friday and find a lot of benefit from it. All right, that wraps up our networking and relationship. So I guess there's 5 sections and 5 questions in each. All right, so our last 5 questions. Number 21. 21. What's harder, hitting my protein and eating goals or keeping my phone away from me after I wake up? Just going for the jugular. The phone is harder because I will tell you, I don't always hit my macros or the way that I eat. It is what it is. I talk about my weight a lot. I talk about food a lot. I love food. It is what it is. But sometimes I do hit my macros. Sometimes I hit my 200 grams of protein at 2,200 calories a day. And I don't track it every single day. I track it enough to make sure I'm still on the path. I don't know that I've ever kept my phone away from me after I first wake up. Yeah. So my struggle. That being said, like, I don't think I'm on my phone that much, but in that situation, I have specifically talked about wanting to not pick up my phone immediately after waking up and not being able to stop myself most days. And to be fair, like, I'll play a game on my phone for 10 minutes. I'm good about not checking email. I might check social media, see, what comments, who can I engage with, what cool stuff is going on. And then I'll go back out for a run, or, I'll do this while I'm in the bathroom, whatever it is. But I don't think I've ever kept my phone away for long enough since I've woken up, or certainly not as often as I do hit my macros. So that one is harder. Cool, hitting me right in the gut, literally. All right, 22. You've experimented with fasting, rucking, and slow carb. What's been the biggest health lesson you've learned about yourself? Okay, so listen, it doesn't really involve rucking or fasting or slow carb. 75 hard. 75 hard is the greatest thing, because whether you do it, whether you achieve it or not, trying it will let you know that you're capable of more than you think you are capable of. So my biggest health lesson is I am capable of way more than I think I am, right? Like I ran a marathon. Well, not the entire thing. I did the entire thing. I walked. Like, I ran the first 14 miles, ran the next couple, and 4 or 5, and then walked whatever it was left, the last 8 miles. Like, I couldn't run across the finish line. My body was so broken down. But I did it, right? Like, if you want to run a sub 25-minute 5K, like, create a plan and execute the plan. So the biggest health lesson for me is the biggest lesson, period, health or otherwise, is I'm capable of so much more than I give myself credit for. And everybody is. That is not me being the thing. That is me realizing, clients who I've had who don't think they could run a $100,000 law firm, turn around and run a $750,000 law firm or a $1.2 million law firm, or, whatever. Clients I have that don't think they can be a great trial attorney hit some of the largest verdicts that they've ever seen. Clients who I have who don't think that they can walk for 30 minutes during a meeting, end up booking these walking meetings and never look back. We are capable of so much more. Yeah, good. Oh, these questions are getting tough. All right, 23. If you could only keep one daily habit, exercise, journaling, podcasting, Hawaiian shirts, which would you choose and why? So I don't journal every single day. I only podcast once a week. The Hawaiian shirts I could probably get rid of and have it be fine. Steps are probably my biggest habit that I don't want to lose. Whether, I lift three days a week, I will run 3 days a week, and then I usually take one day off. And by off, I mean I will just walk for 10,000 steps. But I've gotten 10,000 steps every single day, not missing a single one since 2022. That's the one habit that I would not get rid of. At this point, I just do it. It's not even, it's so second nature. I have to get the steps. And some days it's hard. I mean, I did it the day after not terribly serious surgery by any means, but like the doctor and I kind of talked about it. If I got the surgery done later, I got the surgery done like at noon and knocked out my steps beforehand. I took the afternoon off. I waited as long as I could the next day. I iced the area while walking. I do it. It is me. I am a stepper. I am a walker. I get 10,000 steps. So that's the one I would not want to give up because it's truly my identity. I love lifting weights, but I don't identify as a weightlifter. I love running, but I don't identify as a runner. I wear Hawaiian shirts. I don't identify as a Hawaiian. So the steps. All right. 24. How has focusing on your health made you a better coach and business owner? Ooh. Okay. So there's that thing in a bunch of kitchens, like you don't trust a skinny chef, right? I don't think I would trust an overweight coach, certainly not an overweight life coach. And I probably am still one. I'm no longer obese. I was able to get myself through that. But like the thing for me was, if I'm really preaching to my clients about living your best life, my best life is not me at 250 pounds. It's just not. And honestly, my best life is not me, dying from being morbidly obese, super young, right? Like I want to enjoy this life as I build a better life. I want to enjoy it more. I want to be physically able to. So focusing on my health has made me a better coach and a better business owner because it's given me more energy. It's helped me focus. It lets me stay in the long term. I'm not, thankfully, don't have any sort of health issues that will prevent me from doing this that I know of currently. And also like Atomic Habits, right? Like we did this in the Luau for a book club last month. I've read this book a handful of times. It's great. I get something different out of it every time, but it's like those small incremental changes become great. So the incremental change of not eating French fries every day, the incremental change of getting the 10,000 steps, the incremental change has helped me with my body. And it's also helped my business. The doing 2 lunches a week, going to Topgolf every other week, whatever those processes are, doing them repeatedly and habitually has helped, because a lot of times we just check the number on the scale or the number in our bank account, but those are lagging indicators. We need to look at the leading indicators. What did I do to lower the number on the scale? What did I do to raise the number in my bank account? What did I do to impact those things? That's how health has helped me realize that everything in life comes back to the same stuff. Figure out what you're supposed to do it, see the results, and adjust. It applies to health, business, family life, being a spouse, being a parent, being a kid, being everything. Just follow that same step. All right. 25. Last but not least, what's one small change a burned out lawyer could make this week to start feeling more alive again? Figure out what you can stop doing. That would be my first step. All of us are doing too many things and not doing them well enough. So first, figure out what you can stop doing. Start there. Take things off of your plate. As soon as you can financially afford it, you should have a personal assistant. I sell a whole SOP on this. I think it's helpful. It's like 60 pages of how my personal assistant does stuff for me, plus how to do it and why we got to it and how to hire them and all that stuff. It's been great because I can record this podcast instead of filling out tax documents, instead of double checking that something was sent, instead of following up with an email, instead of reading through all my emails to find the 1 or 2 that have any relevance. it's gotten me so much time back. But that's not something you could do immediately. So immediately, what are the things you could stop doing? Then use the time savings to make more money, then invest that savings in a personal assistant so that you can get even more time back and then continue the cycle. So the personal assistant, then you hire an intake specialist or another lawyer or a paralegal. You just keep building those stacks. Like, what takes up the most amount of time for the things you don't want to do? Make more money, pay somebody to do those things, use that time to make more money, use that time to enjoy life more, use that time to build better systems, use that time to oversee the team better, use that time to coach your team through problems better. Like, you will find a great use for the time when you are not stuck in the day-to-day stuff. Great questions, people. If you have other questions you want me to answer, feel free, drop them here. Email me, jordan@jordanostroff.com. Would love to hear from you. This was a lot of fun. So I hope to see you back here next week for that.
All right, that was a wrap up of our most recent Ask Me Anything. If you still have questions, feel free to email them to me at jordan@jordanostroff.com or drop them in the comments, and these could show up in our very next AMA episode. In the meantime, have a great day.